Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about sex determination in India, and we've already had a lot of questions from people around this topic, and we have with us today Tanya. So she will be addressing all our questions. Hi Hina, lovely to have you here. Hi, hello everyone.
Hey, hi.
Hi Vidya.
I think Tanya will be joined. I mean, she was already online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, looking good.
Thank you, thank you.
You want to introduce Tanya Vidya by the time she joins?
Yes, I could.
Yeah, she's
So she's
already
a
here. Maybe let her join and then you can give her
yeah,
an introduction.
sure. Did we get a lot of question?
Yeah, we had a lot of questions on our stories. Okay, I accepted
Uh,
her request. I don't know what happened.
yeah, yeah. She she's not able to send it again, she says. She has sent a request.
Let me try inviting her.
Yeah.
I'm able to see her request. I accepted it
Hmm.
twice, but I don't know. Let me try sending her a
Yeah,
request. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, maybe you can. Hey, hi,
Hi, Vidya.
Tanya.
Hello. Hi,
This
How are
is the first
you?
time we're talking. I'm Nilufer.
Nilofer.
And I'm Vidya.
Hi, Vidya. I'm so sorry. I have a very bad throat, so I'm going to sound really bad, but I thought I should do this.
Okay, you're fine,
No
right?
bad.
Yeah, I'm
You're
fine.
okay?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just have
okay.
a bad throat, so this is not how I sound usually. So,
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today, Tanya, even after having a bad throat. Thank you so much. That means a lot to us.
thanks for having
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Uh,
you have some, and hello everyone. She's Miss Tanya Appachu. I hope I'm telling the surname right.
It's Appachu.
Uh, Appachu. Okay. And she's a lawyer and also a content creator. She has some amazing content in her on her page. I mean, really, it's really nice, the way you put the content. Especially, I really like the one you made it on, the agreement, the legal agreements, the different words, the complicated words
Yeah.
that are used there, but are difficult to understand. Yeah, that is really too good.
You're doing lovely work, Tanya, really. It's
So,
amazing. Like, the kind of questions you're answering through your Instagram page. I'm sure it's helping out many people out there. It did help us out as well. Okay, Vidya and I were also like, kind of very attracted to your profile when we approached you. So thank you so much for doing all that good work over there.
thank you.
Thank you so.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So maybe we can start with our first question. If you want to share something before we start, Tanya, please do.
Um, Nothing. I look forward to having this conversation. This is not something that many people want to touch upon. So I'm glad that you all raised the issue and I was speaking about it. And sex selection is something that people feel abhi nahi hai India mein. So, but you'll be amazed and amused to know that it still exists. So I think it's good that we're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It still exists on a very large scale, especially in the northern part of our country. And yeah, it's a fact. Today, when I posted, this topic on Instagram on our story, So I had so many replies and responses from people. Some were like, enraged and like angry, and some comments were like, this is illegal in India. When there is no option of finding out whether it's a baby girl or a baby boy, then how come, the next step comes in, wherein like, people are aborting a baby girl. So what I could conclude out of like, all the different messages coming in is that many people are still unaware that, such practices are still being carried on, like, very openly in India. And I can say that confidently because, yeah, I have seen it. I have seen some things like this happening, and I know they are real. Even till date, there are many people, and there are many practices, like, who are dedicatedly doing this work, like, determining the sex of the baby. And it's not only the men, even women prefer, a male child. So that is more shocking. I would not say surprising, it's more shocking, but yeah, this exists very much even today. So let me start off with our first question, Tanya. It's a very, I mean, we have already answered that, but then, like, I just want to hear it, like, from you in a legal way. So, is it illegal to determine the sex of a baby before it's born in India?
Yeah, so we have, since 1994, we have an act called Pre-Diagnostic and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act. So basically, it makes it illegal for diagnostic centers and doctors to determine the sex of a child. So if I go to determine the sex of my child, it's not illegal for me, but the doctor or the diagnostic center who does the test, that it is illegal. It's a criminal offense for them. So basically, the
Okay.
Okay.
government has tried. So you can't track millions of mothers, right, who are having babies, but you can track maybe thousands of diagnostic centers. So that's the way they have brought about the law, so that the onus is on the diagnostic centers, onus is on the doctors to not tell mothers or tell families about the sex of the child. So that is illegal in India. That's why when you go to a doctor, when you go to a diagnostic center, you will not, if you ask them that please tell me what is it, which child, or they'll not answer it, because they know the liability that they will face if they ever tell the sex of the child. So that's how the law has come about. And the law has come about because it's a cultural practice in our country. It is cultural requirement for people to have a boy child in our country and not have a girl child. A girl child is still taken as a burden. Of course, there's a strata of the society which do not think so. But if you see the lower strata, or some people who are in the poverty line, or someone who are really really well to do families, business families, they are the ones who want to know the sex of the child. They want to know whether they have a boy or a girl. They want to have a boy child. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
very
thank you for
rare
that.
before. It's much lesser compared to how it used to be before, since the act has come into place. But it's not like it's totally not there. It still
Yeah.
happens in many
Yeah, it very much happens. I can say that, like, with confidence, because I've seen such cases myself. I would definitely not like to reveal the names of the people who've done that, but yeah, this very much happens, and it exists in, like, in today's time as well. Like, but this piece of information that you shared, that was something new, or maybe like, we hadn't paid that much attention to it, that it's not illegal for the mother or the family who is going to determine the sex of the baby, but it's
Yeah.
illegal for the practitioner. So that means that, like, say I am pregnant and I want to know the gender of my baby for whatsoever purposes it is. I approach someone and that person agrees, like, to, like, tell me the sex of my baby. And the deal is done, okay, and I get to, like, determine what my baby is, whether it's a boy or a girl. If there's any kind of legal action that has to be taken, like, say someone reports it, and like, that a diagnostic center is come under, like, people, like the police have known that, okay, this practices happen here. So I will not have any any kind of legal I will not be put under jurisdiction, right? So I'm not at fault at all.
Act, not
Uh, yeah,
not
means there's
then if you have illegally using illegal methods aborted your child, or if somebody has forced you to abort the child, usually that's what happens. The mother doesn't want to do it, the family forces. So that comes under the IPC for, like, forced
okay,
abortion. It can be a form of
okay,
violence under the Domestic Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. So under the preconception, under the diagnostic sense, that act, it will not get covered, but under the IPC,
okay,
various sections under which you can, a mother or another family member can be put behind bars.
okay. Thank you so much for that, Tanya.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wanted to know if there are, I mean, do you think people still try to find the sex of the child non-clinically,
Yes,
not through,
that is the big problem, because see, now if you go to a good hospital or a good doctor, they are not going to test you, they are not going to tell you the sex of the child. So what do now? If you are very well to do, you'll go abroad, which many
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
They go abroad on
Yeah.
their, and that we know what it is, and then they say they want to determine the child's sex of the child for buying clothes, setting up the nursery and all that. Of course, I mean, I'm sure there are some people who only want to do that, but there is also a majority of people who go abroad to, like, determine the sex of the child, get an abortion if required. Okay, now that is the higher upper class who can afford it. Now come to the lower class. Where do they go? They go to, like, backdoor clinics. They go to quacks who give medicines to, like, figure out the sex of the child, not through proper methods. I mean,
Okay.
I was just reading when you told me about this. I didn't know that myself, but there were some people in Haryana who were giving out medicines, like some kind of a herbal medicine, which would tell the mother, which I don't know how, but which would tell the mother the sex of the child. And sometimes that
okay,
causes, obviously, a lot of illness in the mother, and the fetus dies, etc. So it's not safe at all. And then, of course, there are some back alley doctors who would determine the sex of the child and abort the child, not through very good means. So all that, in fact, affects the health of the mother. Women have died on such quack back alley doctors table. So that is still prevalent right now. Maybe we don't get to know about it. In fact, I read this article which said, I had made a video on this, as sex selection. Somebody had come back to me saying, but the ratio of women are now higher in India than the number of men, or something like that. So I was like, I'm sure that's because people are having 4 or 5 girls before they have one
yeah,
boy.
one
To
boy.
get that one boy, they're having so many girl babies, and that's the only way the female ratio is high. It can't happen otherwise. So, I mean, I know it sounds funny, but that is the sad truth in our country. You can't help it.
That's really sad. Actually, it's sad. We three are girls, and I really feel that, we are doing awesome work. And I'm sure no boy could have done this. And it's really sad that, we are not even giving that life a chance to survive. So, yeah,
I
on to next
all
question. Yeah.
all to do with mentality.
Yes.
We can't. It's very difficult to change that mentality in people. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
possible. It's not difficult. It's not possible. There are certain villages in India, prevalent, like, full-fledgedly even till date, wherein this is very normal. We are talking it about it as if it's a crime, which is actually a crime. But then we are talking it about it being like, it's not morally or ethically right. This is something really wrong. But then there are villages together. I'm not talking of people also. There are villages who believe that this is the right thing to do. And if a woman, yeah,
No, sorry, you were
yes,
saying.
Yeah, if a woman is having, say, like, her first baby as a girl child, then they feel that, they have already done their part to the society by having that girl child, and the next child has to be a boy. There are certain, households wherein they also focus on, like, the first child has to be a boy, irrespective of anything. Then you can have a girl. Like, it's something like, okay, maybe like, a girl is like a toy or something that, okay, you can just have one and play around with her, but then a boy is a must, and this is considered very right. In no ways the people in those areas consider it to be unethical or unmoral in any way. Like, it's perfectly right to them.
See, you have to see how our society functions. We have so many ways. First of all, we are a patriarchal society. So, men do have an upper hand. So if you say men have an upper hand, then they want a child also who is a man who carries on the tradition of the family. Now take dowry into consideration. If you have a girl child, dowry is still prevalent in India in many communities. And in such
Mm.
communities, if you have a girl child, that means you are giving dowry for so many girls, whereas if you're having a boy child, you're getting the dowry into your into your house. So all that is how it plays in the mindset of the families, right? And wo naak kat jayega hamare no one to take on our family ka uh, not getting that Hindi.
Property
Heritage.
name, like, whatever is there prevalent in their family, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so nobody to take on their family's name, no one to carry it. So all that is a very typical cultural problem that we have in our country, and I don't know how long it's going to take for people to change their mindset. It's going to take a while. Yeah.
It's going to take a long time. What I really feel is our generation is the one who's definitely going to stop it. But then our generation in the urban areas, I'm not at all talking about the rural community, which makes up a majority part of India. Okay, so yeah, and it's not only men, Tanya. Like, I've seen women who are obsessed, with having a male child. I've seen such women. Yeah.
Right? You can't blame them. Like I get
It's not about blaming, but yeah, that's how they function. That's how they've even been raised, like, with that kind of mentality.
I've got so many cases where, women tell me that, some of my clients who are like, um, I get taunted at home every day because I haven't had a boy child. My in-laws taunt me every day. It's continuous. You need to have a boy child. You need to have a boy child. You're good for nothing because you've given birth to a girl child. So in such situations, I know friends. I'm not even talking about random people. I know friends who are educated, who are very well to do, who are like, thank God, yeah, my first child was a boy.
Oh.
Like I don't have to worry now, otherwise everyone's going to start, okay, have another one. I already had a boy,
Mm.
so I don't need to have
Mm.
another one. So that is the mindset. I mean, like, I'm not even talking about the rural people, or I'm not talking about the people from a very poverty background. These are normal people like us who feel that way. So it's that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, actually, well, while browsing for the questions, right, I came across this. Yeah, there was so much of female infanticide
With your
earlier.
voice
So
is not that clear. It's yeah,
yeah. Now?
yeah, better.
Yeah. So while browsing, I came across the reason for majority of the female infanticide being because of poverty. But yeah, I think we already covered half of the answer for this question. But even for the male child, they would have to provide. I mean, food, shelter, clothing is required for any kind of baby. But why is it so, given importance? Like, no, female means we don't want.
Yeah, like we
Except for
discussed, right? Like we just discussed that, a female is seen as a burden because one, dowry plays a huge role. You have to give that much money to marry her off. You have to bear her marriage expenses. Second thing is the fact that a son would start earning and take care of you, whereas a daughter would grow up and go away anyways and be of no use to you. So I think that's the mindset that plays, and it's not to do with poverty only, because of course there are even rich people who are wanting to have a boy child and not a girl child. So it's not just poverty that plays a role in, uh,
It
you know.
also can it also be like can we add safety also to that, Tanya, to this list?
I
Because
hope
girl
the
child's safety. Sorry.
I hope that is a thought process, but I really don't think it is, because
Okay.
I hope that's why they feel that, girls are not safe here, so let's have a boy child. But I rarely feel that is the main reason why they are not wanting to have. Like, that would not be a strong enough reason for people to go, get an abortion or force a woman to undergo an abortion. That is also very common, forcing women to undergo abortions after determining the sex of the child. So I don't think that could be the most. Of course, maybe I would say just randomly that, I prefer to have a boy, not a girl, because girls are so unsafe. But this is
Yeah.
something that it's a urban culture thing where we would talk like that. But I really don't see people being affected by that and actually, not having girl child or forcing people to abort a child.
Yeah.
Do you think female infanticide is still, there prevailing in India? I mean, yeah, of course in some, but the rates would have differed.
I think it has come down a lot since 94 Act came into place, because of course if people don't have the option of going and determining the sex, people are staying away from it. But only the really desperate ones are taking, measures. So still, again, a quack or a back alley doctor also is aware of, the repercussions of helping out a family and determining the sex. So it has definitely controlled it, but it's not something that is not there absolutely, because the mindset of the people has still not changed. The mindset of the people is such that they still want to determine the which child they're having and abort the child if required. So
Yeah, no, what,
but
even after like, say they did not have the means to determine the child's sex, or it was too late for them to go in for an abortion, there have been cases which have surfaced that even after the baby was born, and if it's a girl, people have, yeah, killed that baby.
yeah, kill the baby, abandon the child, left the child somewhere. All that happens, yes. That's why they started, government has put in so many schemes for education of child, for schools, free food for girl child, free education for girl child. They've been trying for the past, I think it was the 1990s when, this girl child thing came about. They've been trying since then. They've been doing a lot since then to ensure, talking about it, making educative videos about it. So many schemes for the girl child. If you see, they have some I think in the past few years, they have something where you invest in a girl child, you get really
Yeah.
good returns. I
Yes.
forgot that scheme.
Yeah, even I forgot that. Even
Suganya Samriddhi, I guess.
Yeah?
some kind.
Suganya Samriddhi,
Sukanya
is it that?
Yes, yes, yes.
something. But it's a continuous process, where the government is still. Why are they doing all this? Because it still exists. It's not gone. So that's why, they're continuously trying to bring about changes in how the society.
Right. We had some comment from Vijay Kumar. I just missed that comment. Yeah. And we had a lot more comments. I think I'm missing all the comments. Vidya, are you able to see anything so you can read it out before you're gone?
Once again, I'm trying to. Uh, that was there. Recent census showed that women are more than men in India, but at birth, the sex ratio is still low. What do you think are the reasons for it? Okay, I'm not sure if you heard me. Let me repeat. Recent census showed that women are more than men in India, but at birth, the sex ratio is still low. What do you think are the reasons for it?
How is it possible that the birth sex ratio is low and then the number of women is to men is high? I mean, it can't be possible. But like we discussed earlier, it could, one of the reasons for the increase in the sex ratio could also be that, people are having. I've seen people have 3-4 girls before they have a boy.
Hmm.
So they're trying for a boy, so they end up having 2-3 girls or 3-4 girls in between. So that could be one of the reasons. question I did not understand. That question I did not get because
Maybe you can
Yeah.
reframe it. Who is that? Yuvakshi. If you can reframe your question, we can answer it. We also have
Yeah.
one question from Kalyan, Socially
Hmm.
Kalyan. Ma'am, do you think our executive organ is failing to implement schemes to rural areas in a good manner?
I honestly don't think they are failing to implement schemes. I think they are implementing the schemes, but what happens is at the ground level, people are not. See, it's not enough if the executive implements a scheme, right? The scheme has to be implemented really at the ground level. The local workers, the local municipality workers, they are the ones who have to ensure that, for example, that midday meal came into place, and then, there was so much of what do I say? I mean, uh, there was a phase where kids were given rotten food. People were making crores of that midday meal scheme. So it's not enough if the government implements a scheme and then leaves it. Either there should be a mechanism for continuous checks. So that's where they are. You know, there's a flaw where they're not continuously checking on these schemes to see how they're working. Are the people actually getting access to such schemes? It's not enough if you say this will help the poor and nobody is finding out if the poor are even accessing it. So I think that way we could have better, um, like a better feedback system to see if such schemes are working. A better system for the government to check if it's reaching out to the right people. That maybe is not being done.
Tanya, I have one question to you. There's one question from Sarthak, okay, and reading his question, I just had one question pop in my head. So first, I will read out the question that Sarthak has. He says, I want to ask that there should be sex education in India because till now government has not changed the education system related to sex education. What do you think? Do you think sex education is necessary? So that's what he's asking. But
Yes,
I'm not sure how is that going to impact. Do you think, yeah, so let me just add my question to that, Tanya. So do you think, having sex education in the schools itself, okay, throughout India, compulsory sex education at school, do you think it will have any kind of impact or effect on, the topic that we are discussing, of people not, opting in for female feticide or things like that? Do you
I
think
think
it will have any impact?
I think sex education can be very vast. It can mean actual sex education, like uh, the various methods of having sex, or what they have to be careful about, or also things like this is also a form of sex education. Abortion rights, maternity benefits, these all kind of fall under the head of sex education. So yes, I mean, imagine if at a school, maybe a high school level, a 9, 10, 11, 12 kids level, if you start imparting knowledge on such things, then it's going to definitely change the mindset of people, right? I mean, growing up, they would have a different perspective, a different idea of, than what their parents had, or than what their parents fed them. So usually when you taught something in school, you do think about it, you do get affected by it. So it, at least if it doesn't change your perspective, you'll at least question it. If your parents are somebody who's saying that girl child ही boy ही होना है, या you've seen some brother of yours or sister-in-law of yours affected, but you learn something different in school, you're going to question that. So I think it's a good idea. I mean, why not? We could do with. I mean, I see so many sex education pages doing so well online. I feel they're doing well because nobody gets it in school, nobody gets it in colleges, nobody's teaching them. These are the people who are teaching them online. So I think it would be really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tanya.
Not
We
direct.
also
Yeah.
had one more question that's more related to some kind of regulations that the government has to set in. But there was somebody, I just missed the name of that person, but there was someone asking that, do you think if we have a better monitoring system or a better regulation for the acts that are passed by government, would that be helpful?
Yeah, so like we discussed, right? You can implement a scheme, but if nobody is monitoring it, if nobody is getting feedback on what's actually happening at the ground level, then there's no point of that scheme. So that is something that really needs to be done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Next question is like, see, we are talking about it. So, and upcoming generations are more open to equal gender opportunities. Do you think this can have an impact and, identifying sex of the child can be made legal in India? I mean, because of upcoming generations.
I mean, in an ideal society, I don't think there is a need for such law. Like if you go to any country abroad, you don't find any laws where, determination of sex is, it's a crime. Like there's no requirement because it does, people determine it, but it doesn't affect them. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, we are not that ideal country as yet. We will take time to get there. Yes, like you said, future generations and better education in schools and colleges about such issues would help in bringing a different mindset to people. And once the mindset changes, that's the only time such laws can cease to exist. So for example, it's a very bad example, but I still want to give it. Adultery was a crime in India, okay, some years back, but right now it's been decriminalized. That means it's not criminal anymore. Why? Because people are able to understand that everybody has their own rights and own needs, and having an affair is morally wrong, but it's not a criminal offense. So I'm just saying that the
Mm.
mindset of the people have changed over time, and based on that the laws are also changing. The
Yeah.
judiciary understands that some laws are not relevant in today's times and they will change it. Similarly, if at some point it feels that this is not relevant, this is not required, we have moved on as a country, we moved on as a community, then this it might happen that this law is removed. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just got some question in my head.
Yes.
yeah, with
Yeah. Do you think hum do hamare do, not more than two, some strict law like this will be there? I mean, will be helpful.
I think yes, definitely in controlling the population, but
No,
then
but still, if they have all these kind of things going on, wherein illegally people are still determining the sex of the baby, then this may also increase that rate, right? It
yes,
can, if
see, then
people
there's
are,
only two. See, first of all, I don't like the idea of the government censoring rights over your family plannings. It might be,
Mm.
for me, having one is good enough. For maybe for somebody else, they want 3 kids, or they want 4 kids, or a large family. So that I feel the government, like China, has a one-kid policy, which is absolutely wrong. You can't force it upon people. It's at the end of it, they are right to do whatever they want with their body. So I don't like the idea of the government interfering. And no, I don't think it's going to change. I think it's going to make people actually go against the government. Like I don't think it's going to positively work at all. That's what I feel.
Okay.
Unless the agenda is to control the population, at some
Mm-hmm.
point it is a high requirement to control the population, then that would work. But I don't know if we've reached that point as yet. So
I just have one more question, Tanya. This is just to know your opinion. Not for any existing scenario, but then say we have, as you mentioned, that there's already one act in place wherein if you're aborting a child, if the woman is forced to abort a child, then there's some section through which the family can be booked uh, for breaking the law. So when this law is already there in place, okay, then why is there a need to have a law for not determining the sex of the baby? Because if a woman is forced to abort her baby, okay, then there's already a law in place, right?
because see that nobody comes and complains, right? So, if say for example, some family member forces the mother, they're not going to go and complain to the police. Of course, very rare cases do they go and complain. It all happens within the family. But how will the government keep track unless somebody goes and complains? It's easier for the government to track these. They have machineries to track these diagnostic centers. They have auditing that happens to these diagnostic centers or doctors, like gynecologist clinics or wherever they check to see if something like this has happened. So they are very it's a better way of uh, at least in pain,
Controlling.
better way of
Monitoring.
figuring out if something is going wrong than actually keeping track of what's happening in somebody's home or whether the mother is going and complaining or not. So like somebody said, upar ke, this technique has actually largely been ineffective. Somebody, I just
Okay.
saw somebody's comment that has been ineffective. I too read that it's been ineffective, but maybe the thought process
Which
behind
technique? Sorry,
law,
I missed that. Which technique, Tanya?
the preconception, the prenatal
Okay.
diagnostic law that is in place, I think the person said it's been highly ineffective. So in paper, of course, it looks good. It is a better way to track, but then the opposite side of it is that just because you've made something illegal, people are finding loopholes to
Hmm.
get it done. So how do you counter that? How do you check that? So that is a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have another question. I'm so sorry, Vidya, to interrupt your line of questions. I just have one more question. Now we are stopping people, from determining the sex. I understand that the law was in place for so many reasons, and yeah, I completely agree to it. But then, isn't it going against the democratic principles that we have in place? That if I live in a democracy, I should have right, over my own body to know what is happening, and we have technology in place that can help me, look at it. So, don't you think that it is kind of like undermining the democratic liberty that a person has?
Right over talking about fundamental rights.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, See, as a fundamental right, you do have a lot of tests to understand whether your baby is, healthy, whether there are any issues the baby's face, the fetus.
No, purely for knowing the sex of the
Yeah.
baby.
No, I'm just saying that there are already
Okay,
tests like this. So I don't
okay,
know whether the test of uh, figuring out the sex of the fetus is a requirement, essential requirement or not. To your fundamental
okay,
Mm-hmm.
right, is it very essential or not? That can be disputed, like
okay,
in a court of law.
okay.
Also, the fact that sometimes there is a need for the government to enact something as per the requirement of the country. Like, for example, when there was COVID, the government is forced to enact certain laws, right? So, this law was enacted when the female infanticide was so high. So, there are some times when the government can take decisions on behalf of you where, the overall needs of the country is more important than your personal right. So
Okay.
again, it's a debatable question. It is something that can be disputed in the court of law. But if the need for, say, for example, need for what is happening in the country is higher, then your personal right is
Got
covered.
it.
Right.
So this
Yeah,
has more importance than your personal right. But again, it's a disputable thing, and you
yeah.
can argue about it.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for that, Tanya.
Yeah, there is one comment from Pooja. Adultery is still punished for men, mental abuse, and punished for 6 months.
no, no, it's
I think that is not relevant to our topic also, Vidya.
no, but it is not also. It
Yeah.
is criminal,
Okay.
no longer an it's only a ground for divorce.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just checking if we have any other questions here. Yeah, I think we have covered almost all the questions.
Yes.
So, yeah, we have covered almost all the questions. That is so, yeah. And I mean, I didn't know, okay, that it was not, I mean, mother is not legally responsible to know the sex. I mean, it's the responsible. It is illegal for the doctor and the
Yeah,
scan center to not reveal it. That was really new, something new and very important information.
that's nice to know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
And
Tanya. It was
my-
like, it's a great pleasure.
it was a pleasure talking to you all and talking about very
Same here.
interesting topics like this.
We like when we were discussing about like the things to ask you, we were like half an hour or 40 minutes is going to be a very short time frame to ask Tanya so many questions that we have. But then yeah, we tried to cover as much as possible. We would definitely love to have you with us for another live session whenever you're available. Okay, because there are so many questions. Actually, I did some polls and other things on the Insta stories, and there were some interesting things which came up. They were not relevant to the topic of our discussion, and that's why I did not really bring them up over here. But then let's plan for another session wherein we can answer, those questions which people have. Thank you so much. It was lovely. You're doing a great job. Yeah,
I've been talking too much.
yeah.
My
I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah.
So sorry for that to keep you talking so much. And thank you so much for joining us even after having a bad throat. And your videos are amazing. Just keep them coming.
Yes.
Whenever there's a new video from you, I'll be like all excited. Oh, what she's going to talk about now. Okay, because they're so interesting and intriguing. Thank you so much for everything.
and all the best to both of y'all. And you both are doing a fantastic job too. I really can't talk. So all the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Bye.
you.